Hi, everyone. My name is Ron Bautista. I'm the president of Progressive Democrats of Hudson County. And today we have Stephanie Rosas Garcia. She's a candidate in North Bergen. And just some housekeeping rules is we want to be inclusive. So we start with descriptions of ourselves. I have brown glasses, short hair, some facial hair. Not much has changed since the last live streaming. And thick eyebrows, and we have a clear background and a brown shirt. So Stephanie Rosas is a longtime North Bergen resident. She actually just got her master's degree from NYU Wagner, specializing in advocacy and political actions. Very exciting. She believes transformative change and collective organization is key for liberation. She organizes with mutual aid groups in her community to provide survival work and solidarity, correct? And then as a first generation Mexican American, she has experienced firsthand the limitations and roadblocks placed on low income immigrant families. And so therefore, if elected for Democratic County Committee for North Bergen Ward 5, District 5, she will support any policy that strives to advocate for immigrant rights, gender inclusiveness, social, economic, and racial justice. Stephanie, welcome to this conversation with Progressive Democrats of Hudson County.
Thank you, Ron, for having me. So yes, my name is Stephanie, and for viewers, I have long hair with some highlights. I'm wearing a gray shirt. I have a mauve lipstick color, and my background, I have gray curtains and a window, and I'm sitting down on a chair.
Very cool. And so start talking. I can really connect because I'm actually an immigrant from Ecuador. And I got my U.S. citizenship, I believe, around 5 years ago or so, or 4 years ago. Yes. And thank you. And so, and I can relate. I was actually undocumented for 11 years of the 22 years I've been here in Hoboken. So I know family and our backgrounds and our experiences really shape our views of politics and involvement. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So as you stated, I am first generation. My parents migrated here from Mexico around 23 years ago. And, as any first generation child, we are their main venue for everything. We do their translations, we do the interpretation. So once I started getting older, my father's health started getting worse. He's diabetic type 2, but untreated. And so I did a lot of the going with him to the hospitals. And my whole life has been that, has been interpreting for him and knowing all his medications, advocating for him in terms of his health. So I noticed a lot of things that people without status have to go through, just because they don't have health insurance or they're treated differently because of their status, or because of just not speaking the language, they're treated differently. So I experienced that a lot at a very young age with my father, and so that just pushed me more to try to make a change in that field, because I feel that everyone should be treated equally with respect and dignity, no matter their race, their status, their income level. So that's what first pushed me towards, where I'm at now, just seeing all these injustices happening with my family and with other community members within my community. I would hear experiences or just be in the clinics of the community and just they're not getting treated, the way they're supposed to. And the staff is talking to them like they're not there. They're talking English, and criticizing the patients, and the patients, may not know they're talking about them, but I would be sitting there and I'm like, I speak English. That's not nice. Why are you saying that? So it was a lot of experiencing that. Experiencing that and seeing my father going through that pushed me to be where I'm at now.
Oh, yeah, very exciting that you're involved. I connect with that statement because the way that politics really impacts us is policy too, right? And the people who are at the decision-making table are the ones that are pushing those policies, and that's those systems that perpetuates, right? And so I say that you have two choices. You either get completely disconnected of politics, or you decide to get in there, and that's what you're doing, and changing things up. So I'm very excited for your run. Tell us a bit about your neighborhood, your run, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so I live in Bergen, District 5, and my neighborhood. So I live by Tunnelly Avenue. So my district is very secluded, I would say, from like what others would consider North Bergen, because we're like down by Tunnelly, by like where the Target area is. It's a lot of either two-story houses. We do have some complexes, but mostly one-story, two-story houses. We run from 73rd to like 76th Street, between Cottage Avenue, Dumont Avenue, and Tunnelly Avenue. So it's like very small blocks, but also they have a lot of people living in, the one-story, two-story houses. So while it's still small, there's still like a lot of folks around. And yeah, that's around that's the district that I'm in right now.
Great. And what tell us about your school growing up there? What was it like?
So I was born in Palisades Hospital, so North Bergen, and I grew up in Memorial, where I went to school in Memorial High School, which is West New York. And I've been in these West New York, North Bergen, Union City, like all my life. Been moving here and there. Lived in Union City for like 3 years. Lived in West New York for some years, and now currently in North Bergen for like the last 7 years. And yeah, I just love this community. It's so vibrant. It's like there's just so many cultures. You just walk down Bergen Avenue and you find an immense amount of different diversity, diverse cultures, people, and the same thing within the community. Even though the district I'm in right now is small, while canvassing, I see I have people that speak Spanish, and I'm like, oh hey, I could communicate with them, and they're always so glad. Oh, Latina is running, that's awesome. Like I'm gonna vote for you, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Or just like saying that the fact that there's a Latina running, a woman as well. You also have people, Muslim. There's a lot of Muslim community up where I live. So it's interesting to see how these neighborhoods work together.
That's great. And what tell us about your master's program, and how do you like when you get into a master's program? Really, the great thing is also getting to implement those learnings, those things that you've been studying, and try to put it into practice. Tell us a bit about what that program, how it went in depth, and how you feel like that can help you also with the current position that you're running for.
Yeah, so I just graduated from NYU, had my master's in public administration, specializing in advocacy and political action. So I did a lot of work with policies, basically, and how we could revamp or change or come up with different policies, because we have seen that the policies in place don't work. And so that school really opened up my mind to be more creative, to come up with policies that we could say like, okay, it's okay for us to say things like defunding DHS. It's something that needs to happen in order for the basis of the structural of DHS to change. So things like that was very eye-opening, that like in an educational space, they're like, now it's okay to say things like that. Like there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're coming up with significant policy changes behind that, or like significant, or it will create change in the future, and you know that these policies are going to benefit X amount of people. So the program was really helpful in terms of like being able to, the way I express myself, and being able to learn how to put everything I'm feeling and being able to translate that to a policy that can work to help the community. So that's what we did a lot of work with non-profits and organizations such as One Fair Wage, and it was a lot of advocating for the underdog, and a lot of advocating for these policies and pushing these policies, not just at a local level, but a national level as well.
That's great. And Tell us why you're running for the Democratic committee here locally.
So I'm running because during the pandemic, I saw how the community here was, suffering. They were going through a lot. There was many people lost work. Again, our community is primarily immigrant community, and I saw how most of them lost their jobs. Well, as most people lost their jobs, and they didn't have the aid coming to them, so they didn't know where the resources were to find help, right? Or they didn't know how to apply to unemployment. So during the pandemic, I started working with mutual aid groups to provide food, to provide baby supplies, medication to families in need, and it was just a constant like delivering of these items to families. And again, because I speak Spanish, I was more like the main person to communicate with the families, and so I had my phone ringing like, I don't know, 30 times in a day, just like families. Oh, I heard you're the person that like is bringing food. Can you put me on the list? I'm like, yeah, yeah. I was super overwhelmed. I had like my parents even help me sometimes like contact some families because we had so many families contacting us. So I was confused as to why, in local level, like the politicians weren't involved. They weren't really doing much to help the community. Um, the food there was The families were saying that the schools were giving out food but it wasn't enough, or that the churches were giving out food but it wasn't enough. And I was like, okay, like who can I contact? Where is the person that is responsible of the people in my community? And that information isn't readily accessible. I couldn't really find or pinpoint a person, and then when I did, they never answered their phones. It was really hard to get to them. So I was just angry, disappointed, but also like, what's going on? Like, it motivated me and it pushed me to be where I'm at now, because I think we need people that are actually, well, politicians that are actually in the community and that care about the community. And when something like that happens, like the pandemic, you can find them and you could be like, okay, that's a point. I know this person is gonna like do something about what's going on, not like having to jump through hoops and looking for information online that isn't even there. And then when it is there, you call them and no one answers. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So even though I know that community helps community, because mutual aid group, that's what we did, and we were able to get to so many people. I think we were like up to like 200 deliveries. And so I understand that, like, the need for the community to work within itself is important, but I also think that like politicians or elected officials are important to keep, the community thriving, because they're the ones that have the resources.
Yeah, no, it's so important to have people like you run for office. I'm really excited for your run. It's good because also there's different perspectives, and many of the people in power, they're comfortable, right? Especially in our Hudson County community. So this is a good way to switch up the gears, get people like you involved, who also are caring for the community, are investing in the community. You've been doing some door knocking already and meeting people in your neighborhood for the past few weeks. Tell us, what are some of the issues that matter to your community and your neighborhood, and that also matter to you?
Yeah, so while canvassing, a lot of the issues, situations that came up have been, you know basic, like, okay, parking, because there's houses by houses by houses. Most houses have driveways, and you can't park off the street because you need like a permanent parking, which is like $10 a day. So there's been a lot of like stuff like parking. We have to fix the parking situations, not enough parking, maybe create a parking lot. The streets aren't accessible, so there's a lot of streets that are broken, and we live in hills. That's another thing I forgot to say. Like, my district is a lot of hills, and so if you have a car, it's fine, but if you're walking down a hill and the sidewalk is broken, it's more probable that you're going to get hurt. Or during the winter, the snow, black ice, and these streets are broken, it's not accessible, and children can't really play on the sidewalk. So infrastructure, like it's bad around here. So I had heard some issues of, complaints about that. And then also transparency with the current elected officials. A lot of people are like, oh, they forgot about us. No one really comes to talk to us around here. You're like the first person we see that's talking to us. And they're interested because they're like, oh, someone is actually here, like all the way down in Tunnely, like, hi. So I think it's a lot of what I heard was just that there was no, they felt forgotten. They felt like they didn't know who to talk to. They felt like the people right now that are in office don't listen to them. There's no transparency. They don't know what's going on. They're building something like 2 blocks down from where I live, and some of the neighbors were like, they didn't even ask for our consent, like if we feel it's okay, or they didn't notify us that there was going to be construction work going on at 5 a.m. in the morning until like 7 p.m. at night. Like, it's really, really disturbing to like their peace. And so they're like, we would have liked to know, like, the heads up, like there's going to be some construction, even like some signs or something like that. And yeah, so that's mostly what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah, no, it's been a pattern of some of the candidates I've spoken to already. That lack of information, communication, connecting with the voters, and that's what I'm really proud and just optimistic of our future to have people like you run for office at the very local level, at the block by block, neighbor by neighbor, really having those conversations, and that assistance that you're already providing the community, that you've already been providing to the community. If we're wrapping up with the conversation that we have right now on this live streaming, but I wanted to make sure that people are able to hear from you. So if you have anything else to add, or that you want to tell voters and people who are watching us right now.
Yeah, no, just that it's really important to get involved in local level politics. I know sometimes it feels disheartening or like discouraging, and that no one does anything and no one really cares. But there are people that care. Politicians are here, I think, many times forget, but we're here to like serve people, and that's basically what they're supposed to be doing. And so if we're moving towards a new like era where we have more people that need to be showing accountability and more transparency, I think it's really important that you vote for people you believe are showing those traits and you believe will be your voice at the end of the day, and people who represent you. So yeah, I just feel it's really important to get involved and go out to vote. Democratic primary elections for New Jersey are on the 8th. So I really, just do some research. I know it's really hard sometimes with information, but just try to do some research. And at the end of the day, just vote for who you feel meets your needs and the community needs.
Great. And just so that everybody knows, is again, June 8th is the primary. We're on Progressive Democrats of Hudson County out in column B. 14 and 15 is in the lineup of the ballot. So just look out for, if you're in North Bergen, look out for Stephanie Rosas Garcia. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us and for running for office and representing the people in your neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaughn, for having me. I appreciate it.